Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friends You Keep. Today we have Melodie Reynolds with us. Now, Melodie is the founder of Elate Beauty, which merges eco-consciousness with beauty innovation. She has a background in marketing and a passion for ethical entrepreneurship. Melodie launched Elate to redefine beauty norms. Her commitment to clean, vegan, and cruelty-free products reflect her dedication to sustainability. Beyond CEO duties, she advocates for conscious consumerism and female entrepreneurship. Love that. Melodie's leadership has propelled Elate Beauty to a global recognized brand celebrated for its integrity and innovation. Integrity is one of my favorite words, by the way. She remains a driving force in the industry, inspiring change and proving that beauty can thrive harmoniously with environmental responsibility. Her personal mission is to change the world one lipstick at a time. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here.
Thank you. Well, we met at Uplift. That's where we first met. And then we ended up meeting at another show, The Modern Housewife. So we kind of have been like following each other at all these different events.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that we hadn't met before
I
because I'm
know.
obsessed with your product. And so it's so wonderful to be connected.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. So let's hear all about your journey and what has taken you to where you are today with Elate.
Yeah, so I mean, it's so funny because the journey is like it's a lifelong journey, but that's
Yeah.
a long story, so I won't tell the whole thing.
We got a
Um,
while.
but
Go for it.
but really, I got into the beauty industry kind of by accident. I actually wanted to be an accountant, which when I look back now, I'm like, wow, I'm so glad
Wow.
I did not pursue that path.
That's two
And
different polar sides.
right, totally different. Now, I will say that, the level of accounting I got to does help me run my business, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's definitely not my passion. But I kind of fell into makeup artistry by accident, and it's something that I really enjoyed. Not necessarily because I love putting makeup on people, but just because I love people. I love talking to people. I love getting to be really close to them and touch their face. Because when you are that close to someone and you're helping them see their own beauty, you get to see a whole new side of that individual. And so it makes me very emotional to think about it. And so I fell into the beauty industry because of my love of people. And then I started my career running salons and spas. And then developed my love of business. This is really cool. We can help people feel really great about themselves and be financially independent. Like, this is amazing. As a woman, this was a novel idea to me. I grew up in a generation where my mom never really talked to me about money. And
Mhm.
so it was really exciting to feel like I could marry these two things, helping people feel beautiful and making a living for myself. And then I started to become a little disenfranchised with the whole beauty industry about I would say 7 or so years into my career, when I realized that, as I climbed the ladder, as it were, I was working for a really large cosmetic company, and I was the only woman at the executive level. I was the only woman who was actually wearing the products that we were trying to sell to people. And yet my ideas were not good enough. And, there was actually a specific meeting where I remember somebody saying, like, no, no, that's a terrible idea. Nobody's gonna think that that's a good idea. And I turned to the man and said, this is for a lipstick. Would you wear this lipstick? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, I would. And that's why I think this idea is valid. And so not only did I start feeling, kind of upset about the way that I was treated on that side of the business, I started looking on the other side of the business as well. Because what I realized was that my own journey within the beauty industry started where all of our journey starts, and that's with all of the subconscious messages that get placed in our brains from when we're very young. The magazine covers, the commercials, the models, what you are supposed to look like according to a beauty standard. And so this starts a cycle of overconsumption that isn't our fault. You don't have 20 lipsticks in your purse. I used to joke that I have a lipstick shaped hole in my heart, and every lipstick I buy, I would try to fill it up, but it just was never full. And that's really what it feels like. You have all these products that you don't need and you actually don't end up using, but we buy them because fear and shame based marketing makes us feel less than. So we buy more. And overconsumption starts a cycle of waste that is the serious problem in the beauty industry. And so when I could see those things clearly, I realized that somebody should do something about it. This company that I was working for we were contributing to the problem, and maybe they just didn't realize it. So I should probably be the one to say something. And when I did bring it up, it was kind of ignored. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Everybody does it. There's a little bit of greenwashing in everything that we do. We create a new product and put it in a green package so people think it's better for the environment. And so there was just a series of little experiences where I became more and more angry about the way that I, as a customer, was being treated by products that I actually loved, products that I really felt should bring joy to my life. And then when I left that company, it just became really further cemented in my mind. I actually went out and I bought a new lipstick. It was one of those, like, I'm feeling bad, I'm going to go buy a new lipstick. And when I got it home and unwrapped it, I created a pile of garbage. There was a plastic bag, and then there was plastic around the box, and then the box was all, shiny, which means you can't recycle it. And then the actual lipstick had plastic around it, even though it was inside a box. And this little pile of garbage was the final straw. And I really did. I burst out into tears because I was upset at myself, realizing how much waste I'd created over my entire life, just unconsciously consuming these items. But then I got angry. Those are my two emotions, sad or anger. And, my anger was really directed at, why am I responsible for all this garbage? I didn't ask all of this packaging to be put on this product. The company did. This company put all this packaging on this product. Why? And so it was when I started doing research around packaging rules and packaging laws, because we as consumers just assume, oh, it must have to have this packaging on it. It doesn't. It's for marketing. It's so that product stands out on a shelf. And so I started to put together this sort of journey of, I'm inundated with images of unrealistic beauty standards. So I feel bad about myself. So then I go and buy that trendy product that they tell me to buy. And maybe I buy two, because maybe then I'll be more beautiful than I'm supposed to be. Then I create a whole bunch of garbage. And then I end up not using that product, and it goes to the landfill as well, because all of the packaging is made of plastic. 120 billion units of plastic packaging every year for the beauty industry. Wow. And so that was where it started. I knew that someone had to do something. And when I looked around, I seemed like the only person who wanted to do something about it. And then I started, researching and putting a business plan together. I had $3,000. That was my life savings. I was saving up to buy a new car. That was not going to happen. And I put it all towards research and development of packaging. And the rest is history, I guess.
And so to make all your makeup, and you have beautiful makeup, is that all because of formulas to a certain degree, correct? Is that yourself? Yeah. You come up with it, or do you have a team you work with, or how does all that work?
Yeah. So when I first started, it was me in my kitchen, just like messing around with various ingredients. I've always been interested in chemistry. I've always been interested in how the products were made. So when I did work for the large company, I actually was pretty friendly with all the chemists that we had. So I had a general idea of how things should be made. I did a lot of research. I took a bunch of workshops, because I do love a workshop. And just sort of figured out how things could be done. And really what I discovered was that most cosmetics are just full of filler, right? So it is, we're putting a blush on. Well, that blush just has to have talc in it and color. But talc is not an ingredient that I want to put on my own skin, right? Like this is the other piece of it, is that there's so many ingredients that I don't want in my home and I don't want to put on my skin. And so why not, instead of just using a filler ingredient, use an ingredient that's really good for the skin in with the makeup? So I actually learned essentially how to make skincare formulations and then add color to them. And so then when I went to launch, of course, because I am not a chemist, and, making products in your own kitchen is fine when you're just selling them to your friends. But then I partnered with a chemist and a lab, and really started having the formulations efficacy tested, and all of the testing, because that's really important to me as well.
That's amazing. And what are the certifications? You have the bunny one, so you can tell me.
So we are Leaping Bunny certified and PETA cruelty free and vegan certified. I think that it's so important to recognize that the products that we use for adornment, they really shouldn't cause harm to any being on the planet. And so that's why, plant-based and vegan products have always been really important to me. And yeah, and cruelty-free, of course. We test on humans, not animals. That's a really important piece. We're also B Corp certified as a
Saw that.
company.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That is that was a dream of mine from day one. I started running my company in 2014 with the B Corp standard. And then I actually ran as a sole proprietor until 2018, and I incorporated
As the
so
B,
specifically I could become a B Corp, because you can't be a B Corp unless you're
I know B,
a
B
corporation.
incorporated. I know that's,
Yeah,
I actually looked last year because I went through the whole process and then I'd have to redo my incorporation and become B Corp. And I'm like, what? Okay, well, and so then
yeah,
it's just kind of gone away from me. It is something I definitely want to do as well, but it is
yeah,
the whole thing where you have to, I didn't know you had to be B Corp and my accountant had no idea what I was talking about. He's like, what? So
yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
you
it's
want to be B
I
Corp, but become B Corp incorporated first.
yeah, and I love that. I really love being a part of the B Corp ecosystem, because to me it's all of these things that we say we want to do, using business to be a force for good. It just really cements it down that I'm actually doing them, because it's all third party audits, and I do love, I guess it's the old accountant in me. I love accountability. I love somebody external to my company saying, "Hey, you said you were going to do that,"
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "Oh yes, I am doing that." And so I think that's just another layer of transparency and integrity to offer to our customers.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so do you, I know right now with, I'm going to kind of go on a little side thing here because I know
Yeah.
in our industry with supplements, we have NPNs, natural product numbers, in which we
Mhm.
have to submit everything, showing everything that we have in our ingredients, which I'm sure that probably would be something you would welcome on your end because
Mhm.
you are B Corp, because everything you have. Is that something you think that Canada's going to be putting through? I think I've heard murmurings that they want to start kind of doing that, where, you'd have to provide a COA of every single ingredient, very similar to an NPN eventually,
Mhm.
which I imagine companies like you, that would be, yeah, you'd be like, bring it on, because then you get this wonderful certification. And all other
Mhm.
companies would have a really challenging time falling in line with what they're saying a product has.
Yeah. Well, fun fact, you actually do have to register all your products with Health Canada as a
Okay.
cosmetic brand,
Okay.
but there's not a whole lot of enforcement.
Yeah.
So that is the thing. So all of our products are registered with Health Canada. We don't need an NPN. They just have to be registered with a full ingredient list. And that's how, if you ever picked up my product and looked at the ingredient list, you could actually go to Health Canada's website and, say, hey, I think there might be something missing off this list. And they would go and make sure it's registered and make sure that everything on my label matches.
Gotcha.
However, in 10 years of business, no one's ever come to check.
Yeah.
So I do this because it's important to me.
Yeah.
But
100%.
I'm sure there are lots of other companies out there that maybe aren't following regulatory, um,
There
towing that.
are, there are. There's them, they're in our industry too. It's like, it's really infuriating. That's actually one of my biggest pet peeves, is especially the American companies that advertise into Canada and sell on Facebook and Instagram who do not have the regulation that we have, don't
Yeah.
abide by label compliance. And then consumers buy them and you have no idea what's it, like no idea what's in them. So I'm a
Mhm.
big advocate when anybody's like, oh, what do you think of like A1 greens? I'm like, do not buy an American product, buy Canadian. They're
Yeah.
amazing Canadian companies. We need to support Canada. I know America has that agenda of, buy America and like
Yeah.
support. And so we also, as Canadians, so people, if you are buying makeup from the States, you need to switch.
Right.
No, but it's
Buy
true
from
though.
me.
Like, yeah, exactly. And buy from me too. But buy
Yeah.
from in our country. Like, let's support. I'm such a big advocate for that. And
Mhm.
with CHFA, we have our big regulatory meeting coming up on Tuesday with Health Canada because they're trying to put all of these costs in right now. That's going
Yeah.
to drastically change the game for supplements. So very interesting
Mhm.
kind of see what happens. But little side note there. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really fascinating. And I think one of the things that we're working on in cosmetics in Canada is those labeling regulations, because my passion, of course, is sustainability for the beauty industry. And part of sustainability is making sure that we can have minimal packaging to protect the product.
Yeah.
But that means that, when you have a teeny tiny little thing, right? So I have to make sure that all of my ingredients are on here. but sometimes there are items that actually the packaging has to be bigger just so you can fit the labeling laws. And so we're working on, the idea that as long as there is a place where the ingredients can be found, that
Sure.
that is part of labeling regulation, right? That little symbol with the book with the finger, right?
Yeah.
So
Or a QR code, right? I mean, that's we're dealing with right now with health products. We now next year we have I think till 2028, but we have to have the same labeling as pharmaceuticals. So they're making us do the same labeling, which I mean, you should see the labels, they're gigantic. But and in that there are, I mean, even some of my products, the writing's teeny tiny, but it's like, well, why aren't we using more technology? I have QR codes on mine. You can look up everything when you go to that QR code and being more efficient with what technology is bringing us nowadays. There's not a lot of people who are going to stand here. If there is a QR code, most people just be like, oh, okay, well, let me just take a look what's in here immediately. And they can read everything on their screen, opposed to like, well, I can't read anything, so.
and not just the size of the font and not being able to physically read it, but also reading an ingredient. And I don't know what that is. Wouldn't it be
That,
nice to be able to go and say, oh, here's a list of all the ingredients? And for us, it's what the ingredient is, where it was sourced, what
yeah,
it's for, like why it's in the product.
yeah,
Because I think that that's really important, for supplements as well as cosmetics. I
100%.
want you to understand why I use this ingredient in my product. Because if it's not an active, if it's not actively caring for your skin or being part of the longevity of the color on your face, what is it in there for? And even if it is just like, hey, this is just so it smells better, or like
The
whatever it
honesty of it,
is,
yeah.
yeah, we want to be as honest as possible, because I think that is honesty to a fault, right? I want you to know why I'm putting the things in my product. And for me, that's also about setting the example, because if that is what we as customers demand and come to expect, then all companies will have to have that level of ethics. And that's really what my personal mission means, like changing the world one lipstick at a time. That's what it's all about, because it's not just in my industry, it's in your industry, it's in all industries, that we as customers, we're expected to know everything and do all the research. And I think that it's our responsibility as companies to provide a really honest telling of what it is that we are doing.
100%. I totally agree with you. That's why I kind of do the programs within mine as well. And that's where you kind of went back to the, integrity and looking at your bio where you talk about that, celebrating integrity and innovation. You want to really be able to create really cool products that keep people who are in Canada buying our stuff here, right? Because there is that competitiveness we have, but also being able to be 100% transparent. This is what we're doing. There's been times throughout the years where we're launching Lady Bits, and Lady Bits is our vulva balm, right, for women in menopause. And so we've just launching that this CHFA, and we have GLA in there. And it was funny because I was talking to the guy I've been working with for the past year. It's taken us a year to get to this point. And on when we had the label done, we have primrose, but he had used borage in the beginning. And so it was kind of like, well, maybe we'll just, and I'm like, no, because if somebody ever has a reaction to
Mm-hmm.
primrose oil, I said, I could
Mm-hmm.
never live with myself if anybody had that reaction. I said, so let's do this. It's like it's the eighth ingredient. It's like a doop. So go
Yeah.
back. Let's see. It's not like it's the main ingredient in the product.
Yeah.
But let's go back and do it. See what you think. Or we'll scrap the labels and we'll start all from scratch again, right? And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
it worked. I'm like, okay, good. Because there is that. I just think if somebody ever had a reaction or somebody
Mm-hmm.
with any of my products, like I want everything same as you, right? I want to be completely open and honest and transparent. So if
Mm-hmm.
you get a reaction, I could say, well, there is valerian in there, and there's a handful of people that don't sleep well on valerian, like whatever,
Yeah.
right? So it
Yeah.
gives you, I think, and it puts you in the standards of companies. Like people know
Mm-hmm.
they can trust what you're going to say and what you're going to do, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's totally huge.
Well, I think customer loyalty begins with trust, right? And trust is only built when you really put your money where your mouth is, right? So part of that is, and I'm such a big believer in this, I don't actually think that you can build trust unless you've failed.
Hmm.
Because when you failed, you have an opportunity to demonstrate trust. Like we as humans are like, oh, this person is trustworthy because they've never given me a reason not to trust them. When it comes to companies like us, I think that the biggest part isn't that, oh, they've never given me a reason not to trust them. It should be like, no, they did something wrong or they made a mistake and they admitted it publicly they fixed it, and they've now showed me that I can trust them. I think that that is the marker for trust in terms of companies. And that's really what I always strive for. Because in 10 years, I've made a ton of mistakes.
Oh God.
And, and there's nothing that I mean, it's awful. It's embarrassing. I feel like a dummy dum dum, like, but I will go on my social media and I'll be like, hey, I screwed this up. And now this is what we're going to do about it.
Well,
Right.
it's better
So,
than just watching the highlight reel, right? I think entrepreneurship is so freaking messy and
mhm.
so hard at times. We just had stuff, we're going into Quebec and we've done full French labels. So
Oh,
that's done.
I
So,
feel, I feel for you.
well, it's bilingual, but the names have all been switched to French.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the first companies that's done it. Most companies
Yeah.
don't. They just are like, take it or leave it. And we've had such a hard time cracking Quebec. It is a really its own little, area
Yeah.
that's they're special and they want to be treated as what as way. And I was talking to the Purity, the lady who's the vice president of sales. And I said to her, I'm like, what if I like made the names all French? Because she's like, they look at your product and think Anglophone. And she was like, you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Why not? Let's try it.
Yeah.
So we went and did all the labels in French. Everything's ready to go. However, I did not think that it has to be a different UPC from the
Oh,
actual original product because what I
because it's a
thought is
different
it because it's a different. And so I have thousands of dollars worth of labels and I'm like, and this happened 2 nights ago. And we've had huge listings when I was in Montreal. Like we got some big, big, big companies, like all
name.
products. They're excited. They can't believe I've done this. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, come on, come on, come on, come on, pivot. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is we're going to be stickering by
I was
hand.
just going to say, yep, stickering.
Egos.
Yikes.
But that's
I've been
the like
there.
big things, right? And you're like, yay! And you're like, oh my God. And you're like, yay!
Totally. Yeah. And I think
Right?
but that's part of being the founder of a company and being the person who is the visionary, right? And I know that sounds like a very grandiose word. And
No,
when I
it's
call
true.
myself that, I'm like, I'm a visionary. But really, it's
I like it.
what
I'll
that
take
means.
it.
But what that means to me is that I'm always thinking up here, and
Mhm.
we've had the idea. It's great. It's exciting. We're executing, and then the mistake comes because I'm not a detail. Like I'm not down here,
Yeah.
and that's why, like I mean, and it happens. Mistakes happen because you know we I think we all have this level of like getting to granular, and
Mhm.
mine stops like here. Like I'm not like I need somebody who's looking at this tiny bit, and I can only see this part. So
Yeah, too.
stuff like that happens, and then we're all like, but
It's like
well,
I said, I messaged Purity. I'm like, well, this is an expensive lesson. And they
yeah,
said, okay, well, when can you have everything by? And I'm like, oh no, I'll have it this week. You don't, they're like, I'm on it. Like this,
yeah,
I'm boxing and labeling and stickering. This is my
yeah,
weekend. I've got the long weekend. This is what I'm doing. We will
yeah,
have products in that Quebec warehouse, and so then I'll reorder and everything will kind of go from there. But it is these, and being I think a smaller business to a certain extent, because obviously if you're a huge, large company, this would be challenging to just all of a sudden on the fly, be like, okay, what do we got to do to figure this out? But
yeah,
it definitely is being an entrepreneur. So, but
totally.
anyways, but on that note, I was looking at your website. So everybody listening, if you have not been to a website, go check it out. It's really beautifully done. I love some of the stuff. So I want to talk about some of the stuff that's on your website. So I have never seen this before where you can get an on-the-spot guide to your makeup needs, curate your capsule. So tell me a little bit about that. How did that come to be? I've never seen that before. So I found that such a cool concept.
Thank you. I mean I was inspired by the idea of a capsule wardrobe, right? I've always been a bit of a of a clothes horse. I love fashion, I love adornment, I love, color and things that are joyful. But a few years ago, of course, in on my journey to being a better environmental citizen, I started subscribing to this idea of a capsule wardrobe, which is, specific pieces that you mix and match together so you create less waste and can avoid fast fashion. And when I was starting Elate and I was looking at all of the ways that we could be more sustainable as a company, I really, we focused on sustainable packaging, refillable packaging, customizable packaging, like all of these things that we can do to help eliminate waste. But then I kind of kept coming back to this idea of, but I'm buying the wrong shades and then those are going to waste. Or, the big one for me was I always call this my dirty little secret. I'm 44, I'm going to be 45 this year. I went to the prom in 1997 maybe 96. And I went to a makeup counter, I won't say which one, and the woman was like, "This is your shade." And it was an eyeshadow shade. It was shimmery because I was really into Courtney Love. It was the 90s, and she was wore like shimmery eyeshadow and, running mascara. And so I wanted this shimmery eyeshadow shade, but it only came in a compact, a plastic compact with four other shades. And I was like, well, I don't want those other shades, but I had to buy it to get that one shade. I carried that compact around with me with that one eyeshadow empty for almost 20 years
Wow.
because I felt so much guilt
Right.
about throwing the rest of it away.
Yeah.
And so I kept coming back to this, like, how can we encourage people to buy less? What a weird concept for
Yeah.
a makeup company, right?
Especially as an entrepreneur, you're like, I need you to buy less product, please.
And like, I want people to buy less. And so I started thinking about this idea of, translating a capsule wardrobe into a capsule beauty bag. And so it's really all about, so when you buy something, you get a little dopamine hit, right? You get that little, it's a little gifty, it's a little present for myself. And so what we're trying to do is not only provide that little dopamine hit when you buy something, but make it even more on a more visceral level because it's personalized. You bought it for you because it's a thing that you are going to use every single day. And then also creating that little dopamine hit when you finish the product and you get to refill it. That is such a delicious feeling when you hit pan or when you finish a lipstick or when you finish a mascara and you actually get to refill that item. It feels so good. And so the capsule beauty system is really about diving deep into, let's stop thinking about that, what that model is wearing on her face. Let's stop looking at, all of the social media people that we're seeing. Let's stop looking at what people are expecting beauty to look like and really look at, what do you always gravitate to? Do you love a red lip? Do you always wear blush? Are you never without mascara? Whatever it is for you. And then we help you build that beauty bag around those items. One of my favorite horrible stats, which is true, is on average, women have 40 products in their bathroom and use only between 8 and 12 daily.
I would
And
be.
generally, right? And about 4 to 5 of those are makeup items. So if you only use 4 or 5 makeup items a day, why do you have a bag that has 20 items in it?
Yeah.
And so that was really where we started from. And so the capsule quiz is to kind of help you get there, right? Like, my goal, of course, is that you could always have me with you holding your hand as we go through what your beauty style is, or one of our Elate artists. We have Elate artists all over North America. But we're not quite there yet where we can have an artist paired with every single person. So the quiz is really an easy way for you to kind of dive into, what do I wear every single day? And how can I make sure that those are the items in my beauty bag that I'm going to use up until they're gone and then refill them to help reduce waste. So it's creating joy, creating more time in your morning ritual. Because again, when you're trying to sort through all those clothes, it takes time. When you only have a few things to choose from, you actually help save time. And then just creating more space for joy. All the things that we own, they end up owning us, right? And so when we have this massive bathroom counter that's full of products, it really does eliminate that room for joy in your morning ritual. And that's what we really wanted to bring back. Bring back joy in your morning ritual while also helping to reduce waste.
Love that. I began to really understand why Steve Jobs wore turtlenecks and jeans all the time. I'm like,
The
I think I'm just gonna
uniform.
do that because his whole like dressing thing every day. So I have like my Erin Wellness shirts and I have probably 50 of them with different sayings on with the Erin Wellness hoodie and my jeans. I'm like, this is like my uniform, I
Yeah,
think.
I love it. I
It's
love
so
your
easy to
shirts.
put
They're so fun.
on. Yeah, we have two new
Yeah.
ones coming out for CHFA. So I do them every CHFA, but we've just managed to collect them over the years.
Nice.
So speaking of recycling, now I want to talk about this. I saw this on your website too, which I love this, especially as an entrepreneur. I love this idea. So when somebody sends their product in, so it's with Pact, is that the name, is a company that you work with?
Yeah.
When they recycle it, they get a $5 coupon to
Mhm.
buy more makeup. That is such a great idea. So what is Pact? How did you kind of connect with them and how do they handle the recycling for you?
Yeah, so this is speaking of mistakes that we make along the way. This
Yeah,
recycling program has been, 10 years in the making in 7 different iterations
yeah,
because, we always strive to have everything be completely waste free. So for instance, the refills of our eyeshadows and blushes, these are actually home compostable. You toss them in your compost, you bury them in your garden, the labels as well,
Love that.
totally compostable. But we do have some items that need to be recycled. And of course, we're really lucky here, especially on the West Coast. Our municipal recycling programs are pretty good.
Yeah.
But there are lots of places across North America and globally that don't have recycling. And so we originally tried to do this ourselves. So we tried to get people to send us back their products so we could properly recycle it. And it did not work. we are not, we are not a recycling facility, but we tried to be. I was like, we can do this. We can be a recycling facility. And it didn't work out. And so luckily I believe it was 2020, Pact hopped on the scene. And, they're on a mission to help eliminate waste from cosmetic companies as well. And so basically we partner with them and they manage all of the recycling and the donating of items that can't be recycled. And so it really helps to, and this is such great business advice as well. And I always say this, you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And it's really important to try to outsource to people who do know.
Yes.
And so I don't know how to recycle things. I have an idea of how they can be recycled, but I'm not a recycling center. I make makeup.
Yeah.
And so being able to partner with Pact and actually have, the glass go to the right place, the plastic go to the right place, anything that can be reused in a new way. So we used to use old mascara wands to like clean off ducts and things like that. So there's lots of ways that the things can be recycled and reused and repurposed. And so working with Pact has been amazing. And then, offering people the incentive. Here's the thing about being, a better environmental citizen. It's nice when there's a bonus for you as well as just being able to, be good for the environment. And also it means that you are more likely to refill the product that you have. So every product that you get, there is a component where you can refill it. So our powder jars, for instance, this is an asset. You keep this, but the little refill comes in a compostable paper tube. So you refill it and you can compost the paper tube. And
So
so,
smart.
yeah. And so for the minimal amount of product that does need to be recycled, if you can't recycle it, that's how we partner with Pact.
Well, I definitely know in our industry, there's lots of plastics, and even myself, they can be recycled, but it's really challenging. I love what you've done. As you're talking, I'm like, I wonder what we could use for ours. You kind of always think about that. And there for a while there was some companies who used, cardboard and then had plastic bags inside with pills. But the only thing is that is when you get home and you open it up, you're still going to have to put it into something plastic anyways, because you
Yeah,
can't, like, so there's kind of these, and standing up, now people have used bags, but bags all fall over. So it
they do.
becomes really messy in stores.
Yeah,
So eventually somebody is going to come up with a plastic, totally eco biodegradable, like it's going to
yeah,
come, right? Where you could
yeah.
just plant it in your backyard after you're done using Reclaim. Like that would be the ultimate, to have
We're
happen.
getting there. Like
I think so too. Yeah.
there are compostable plastics, but they're industrially compostable, which means
Yeah.
they can't go in your compost. So, and of course anything that goes in a landfill doesn't break down. That's the key difference that people don't quite understand, is that the landfill isn't made for things to biodegrade. It is made to be airtight. And of course, for things to biodegrade in compost, they actually need oxygen. And so all the compostable plastics on the market right now aren't where we need them to be, but we're getting there.
So I
Um,
think eventually we'll have it. Eventually.
yeah.
So I'm
And I
excited
think
to see
like that's the big thing too. Like with me, when you're thinking about refilling, you do have to make sure that it can sit on a shelf somewhere, right? Because that's part of the thing, is that, if the product or the user experience isn't good, then the
that. Buy it again.
sustainability is moot. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how sustainable it is, because either no one will buy it or no one will buy it again. And I think that's the key thing about creating a more sustainable future in all CPG brands, is your product has to be fantastic and the experience has to be better than the not sustainable version. So that way, again, that's just the incentive to make sure that we're all being as environmentally conscious as we can.
No, I agree with you. And you guys also, speaking of being environmentally conscious, you guys also give back to planet and people. So you do a net profit proceeds, kind of similar as I do the downtown East Side Women's Shelter, which is interesting. We're both kind of aligned that way. So why
Yeah.
is this? I know obviously you've talked a lot today about why this is important to you, but why is this important to you? Why do you want to give back? Tell us.
I mean, I think that, using business as a force for good is like, it is really my life's mission, is to be able to affect change in the world. Makes me emotional, getting emotional. And I think that when you are an entrepreneur and you have a vision, it's not only as close to you as the product you're making or the company that you own. Your vision is that there is a future where you have created a change. Like,
Mhm.
I think that is what drives us all as entrepreneurs. Like, we love our product and we love creating, but really it's that vision of whatever is next, I'm going to have influenced it. And
Yes.
so for me, it's not only influencing, our environmental citizenry, and, we do all that we can running our business. And then, of course, we also plant trees and we donate to environmental causes. We've actually been donating to the ocean cleanup this past month. Generally, each month, the staff, we all choose from a list of partners that we like to work with and really try to give back. And then at the end of every year, we have our third party audit for our annual sustainability report to offset all of our carbon. And so we work with carbon offsets that are actually out here on Vancouver Island to further offset. So we're not just carbon neutral, we're actually carbon positive.
It's
And
amazing.
so I think that that is something that's really important. And then on the social side of things, I own a makeup company, and the reason I started this company is because of the damage that I see beauty campaigns doing to women.
Yeah.
Makeup is for everyone, not just for women, but that is who I am. I identify as a woman, and I know that there have been so many times in my life when how I've been personally affected by the beauty industry. And I want to be able to change that. And, the other thing is we partner here with the Victoria Women's Transition House, specifically for their program for young women, because any mother who has had to access that shelter will often have to bring her children with her. Many of those children being women, I was one of them. And, having that experience, it's it's really important to know that there are people out there that are rooting for you
100%.
and to know that there are people that care. And, again, my whole philosophy about makeup being a tool of joy is really, it starts when we are teens. And so when we have lots of other stressors and pressures in our lives, specifically, if you are leaving a violent situation, being able to put on a lipstick and know that the person who made that lipstick actually cares, I think really goes a long way. And so we have scholarships for young women here, and we partner with the Transition House to help with all of their programs. We've done that locally for the 10 years that we've been in business, and we've done it globally as well. We partnered with Plan International a few times, which runs a program on sexual wellness for young girls. Um, and so just things like this it honestly, and this is going to sound silly, but it's the least that I can do,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I agree.
I get
I agree.
to come to work every day and run my business, and I am safe. And
Yeah.
there are so many women around the world that are not. And I do see the connection between the safety of women and beauty standards, which I know seems like a crazy connection to make,
Yeah.
but there really is. And so the more that I can do to help empower and inspire individuals, the more I will do.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think when I got on Dragon's Den ages ago, and Arlene Dickinson was the person I ended up partnering with, and I didn't take the deal because I was never going to. But nonetheless, one of our conversations her and I had several set conversations with her, and I loved her. I thought she was fantastic and done incredible work. But I talked about the Downtown East Side Women's Shelter, and she said to me, she goes, "That is creating a perfect business. If you can sell a product that you love, that you stand behind, that you've created, and it's like your baby." She goes, "And then give it to consumers who love it and use it and are able to change their lives with it, and then be able to affect other people's lives who are less fortunate." She goes, "That is the perfect trifecta business." And
Yeah.
that is like, because it really is that, you hear that all the time. To be truly successful, it's when you're giving back. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can do that, that feeling of like, okay, we're not just a company trying to make money, we're a company really trying to make a difference. And trying
Mm-hmm.
to, as you said, like leave our mark in the world and leave it a little bit better, and know that you kind of bump that dial a little bit forward, where somebody used your lipstick, or somebody who maybe was, in a compromised situation and had that opportunity and realized that you gave it and was like, wow, I want to be like that. I want, and use that as motivation to change their lives one day. Like, it just, you never know. And I don't understand why. I think a lot of companies now are more socially conscious in the sense they do have some sort of component in their business, but still the amount that does, it's not enough. I mean, I really do believe that all businesses to some capacity can have a certain percentage of net profits that they donate back. Originally, I was doing gross profits. My accountant's like, Erin, yeah, you can't do
Yeah.
that. I'm like, why not? He's like, we're not, no, you can't do gross profits donation. I'm like, but then I think it'd be more. It's not enough. And he's like,
It
oh my
would
God, no.
be more.
And then I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, net's better.
Yeah. And that is the triple bottom line, right?
Yeah,
People, planet, purpose,
yes,
right?
exactly.
And I think that when we can balance those things with profit,
Yeah,
because this is the thing, and I always talk about it because the altruistic parts of my personality and of my business are the thing that people want to talk about. But I'm also not shy to say no, but I also want to make money. I didn't
100%, and
I didn't
nothing's
get
wrong
up
with
this
that.
morning to
Yes,
not make money, right?
yes,
Like there's
100%,
nothing wrong with wanting to make money. And the more women that feel empowered to get up and make money, the more money we can give back and give
100%.
back to our businesses and give back to ourselves so
Mhm.
that we can prosper and leave a legacy of financial stability and empowerment behind us. And that's really the trail that I want to blaze. Sustainable beauty is the that path in the jungle I'm on where I am hacking away, blazing that trail. But what I really hope to leave behind is the idea and the expectation that you can leave the world a better place through your business and be profitable. And I think that those two things are really important to understand. And I love talking about it. I love talking about it with young entrepreneurs that are like, I want to do good. And I'm like, you can't do good, but you still need to make money. Because if you don't make money, you can't get up and do good tomorrow. And the
100%.
more money you make, the more money you can actually give to help make the world better. So I think that's an important thing to note as well for all of us doing better in business.
Yeah, love that. I had goosebumps when you said that. That's great. So out of the products, because you kind of emphasized lipstick several times. So is lipstick your favorite product?
I am a lipstick girl. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely a lipstick girl. I love a good red. We have a pencil called Prim that I wear almost every day. And we actually have a lipstick that retired a few years ago called Blaze. That is my personal favorite. I'm bringing it back.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I didn't wear makeup when I was a teen, other than like very light, my concealer lips and my shiny eyes, because it was the 90s. But I really come into it being, it just makes me happy when I look in the mirror and I'm wearing a red lip. I just like it. And that's really what I'm hoping to spread to everyone is that it's for you. It's not for anybody else,
Yeah, it
right?
is. I think that's the thing. A lot of people think a woman, I mean, I get dressed for me, right?
Yeah,
I'm not getting dressed for anybody else. And I know
yeah,
when if I'm working from home even, and if I'm just kind of not, I got my hair in a bun and my gym clothes on, I don't feel as good as I do when I go and shower and do my makeup and put on something nice. It's different. The level in which I operate is very different because I feel better. So
yeah.
really acknowledging it's not, I mean, yes, you may have somebody, look at you a little more, but it really is all about how you feel. And a
Well,
lot of the
it's
time I won't leave my place.
yeah. Have you read The Artist's Way by Julia
Yes, I love that with
Cameron?
Julia Cameron. I
So
love her. I read it when I was in my
that's
20s. She's
yeah. And
phenomenal.
then the other one is Big Magic, which is more recent, kind of
Yeah.
about the same idea. And I love the whole idea of having to woo creativity, right?
Mm,
And like so when I want to have an idea or I need to woo it. And so in
yeah,
order to woo something, you need to feel really good about yourself.
yeah.
And so that's really where that comes in. Yeah, I'm the same. If I sit down in my workout pants with my hair in a bun, I don't feel as creative as if I've taken the time.
Mhm.
Because I've also then it's like those neuro signals to yourself that I'm worth this time and attention that I'm paying to myself. And people say that vanity is a bad word. I don't believe that,
I don't believe
right?
so either. I don't
I
believe so.
I love how I look when I look in the mirror. Not every day because I'm a human.
Yeah,
But the more days than the others, I look in the mirror and you know, I like what I see, and that's really what I'm
that's
striving for.
that's incredible. And I was
Yeah,
gonna say too, with the artist way, that's where I got my definition of good orderly direction, your GOD. And I do
yeah,
that all the time with everybody I speak to. and I talk about listening to that, the thoughts you think, your God, what's your good orderly direction telling you? I don't care what religion you come from. You have that inner whisper, as Oprah say, the
Yeah.
whisper, but that inner voice that tells you,
Yeah.
mm, right? And if I
Yeah.
do something and listening to that, and as an entrepreneur, one of the things I'm sure you as well, I've gotten a lot better at listening to the whisper. When I hear something in my voice, I'm like, okay, I need to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I write it down and make sure I do. And times I haven't, I'm like, oh, I knew I should have done that. Right. And that is your good orderly direction. But I love that from her book. We used to have it in my old place in Toronto, going up the stairs, good orderly direction. So
Love
yeah,
that.
yeah, I read that. I
Yeah.
love that book. Not many people know Julia Crammond's Artist Way. Not many people have read it, but yeah, she's fantastic.
Oh, everybody should. It's great.
Everybody should. I agree. So just a little bit of financial stat stuff I want to look into. So in 2021, I found this quite staggering. The revenue of the natural cosmetics sector was 187.25 million. The revenue is expected to grow to 247.25 million by 2026, which is just 2 years away before we know it, right? Those are staggering numbers to see how that is really shifting. Now, I guess how many of them are actually natural will be the question, right? And natural and be, there is definitely that question because there's products that can be sold, but they might not necessarily be really natural. So what is based on these kind of numbers and looking at that, I mean, you must obviously know this growth is happening. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal for Elate?
Yeah. I mean, do you mean number wise or other like
Whatever,
just
whatever
the goal?
you can do whatever you can say whatever you'd like.
Yeah, I think, and what's funny is that that is just cosmetics that are quote unquote natural because,
Yeah.
we're not regulated there. That's something else we're working on.
Yeah.
But, the industry in itself is more like 350 billion,
Oh, wow.
right? So it is that like as a
Yeah.
whole. So
As a whole, yeah.
there is a huge amount of growth that can happen, but often a lot of it is happening just with, the big five. So there are essentially five companies that own every makeup brand in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Except for brands like mine that are
Yeah.
independent,
Yeah.
and there's a number of us. And one of the things that it can be difficult about growth when you're smaller is we don't have marketing dollars to compete against some of those big guys. And so what I like to do is, I'm over here making great products. I'm over here, not using fear and shame-based marketing tools.
Mhm.
I'm educating, empowering, and inspiring individuals to try to make better choices in their life. And so my my BHAG, as it were, is more accessibility for us.
Mhm.
So accessibility is actually one of our values because, again, Melodie is a little girl. I remember when organic food became a big deal. And I grew up with a single mom. We were poor. I couldn't afford the organic food. And I remember, again, being sad and then getting angry that, like, why do I not get to eat the better apple because we're poor? That's not fair. And so this idea of accessibility for more sustainable products is really important to me. So that means lots of things, price accessibility, but it also means physical accessibility. So right now we're in about 250 locations worldwide. And
Amazing.
I would actually like to shift that to, you know, by the end of 2025, I'd like to be available in 1,000 locations worldwide.
Yeah.
So we'd really like to create more accessibility for our products, which means not only can you take our capsule quiz online to help, minimize waste in your beauty bag, but you can also go into a location near you and see the products in person. Because one of the most sustainable things is being able to try something before you buy it. So then you know that you love it. And so for me, being able to increase, the number of stores that we're partnering with would be huge. And I'd love to partner with a national retailer. We're not in any national retailers currently. We support small and medium sized businesses owned by women primarily. But I would love to be in a national retailer so we do have that accessibility point. And I don't actually know if that's a BHAG or not, but I think going from 250 to 1,000 stores in a year and a half is,
That's a
it
big
feels
thing.
daunting, but I think we can do it.
That's what you need it to be. You need it to be a little terrifying.
Yeah, yeah, right?
Right? Because otherwise, it's like if you know you're going to accomplish it. I'm listening to this. What was I listening to the other day? Maybe it's a book or just one of my motivational things. And they're like, you have to always constantly put yourself, obviously, in a situation where there's this urgency of accomplishing it. Otherwise, you won't feel the need to do it. right?
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, well, I don't really need to. You really have to be like, oh shit, like this is something I need to do. And you've got to hustle for it. And even if you fall a little bit short, even if you've gotten 700, that would be a huge win, right? But it's, yeah, you got to really set everything high. I mean, yeah, I was the same way with my numbers this year, and the lady who consults for me on on my numbers and everything like that, not my account, but I have another person. And she was like, this is like really adventurous what you're trying to do. And I'm like, I know, but look, if anybody can do it,
That's right. You can.
I can. And if I fall a little short, it's better than not, not getting there at all. So yeah, kind of the same thing.
Absolutely.
So I love that. All
Yeah.
right. So we're going to have our ending questions. So some
Okay.
personal ones. So what is the one thing you would tell your 20-year-old self?
Uh, this is such a good question. And I think the one thing that I would tell my 20-year-old self is it's okay to ask for help.
Hmm.
Because I think that I spent a lot of my life um, being afraid to ask for help. Um, and there's some very deep-seated reasons why. But it's something that I'm still practicing. But people want to help you, people want you to succeed. People want to see you use your voice. And so I think that that would be the best piece of advice that I could give myself. I don't know if I would take it. I was pretty stubborn as a 20-year-old.
Even
But
now, I'm still stubborn. I mean, I'll be like, okay, I can figure this out. I'll try every way I possibly can. Then I'm like, okay.
yeah, I would also probably say the tequila shot is never worth it. At the end of the night, the
Ever,
end of the night,
ever,
it's like 2 in the morning and they're like, let's do a shot. It's
yes,
never worth
right?
it. Just say no.
Ever. I know I've gotten better at that now, for sure. Like
Yeah.
they're like, let me do a shot. I'm like,
No,
no,
thank you. No.
I am not mixing wine and tequila, and I suffer so much the next day now. My
Yeah.
hangovers, I literally have to plan out. I'm like, okay, well, if we go out Friday, then Saturday I can struggle. Sunday I could be okay. Like I
Yeah.
really have to like pre-plan when I'm going to go out if I'm going to be drinking. Um,
Absolutely.
so what inspires you to be your best self?
Oh, I think what inspires me to be my best self is really I just want to show up and be able to, you know, be the change that I wish to see in the world, to steal someone else's quote. I always want to be better than I was the day before. I want to wake up every morning and say, okay, yesterday this happened and today I've learned from it and now I can move on. And I think that that motivation is because I also want that for all the people around me, for my kids, for my partner, for my friends, for my staff. I want to be able to confidently say, if I get hit by a bus later today, that yesterday I helped them be a better version of themselves as well, because I'm constantly trying to be a better version of myself. And I think that is a big part of legacy, and I keep going back to that word because it's important to me. The legacy is what we leave behind, and we can make mistakes along the way, but ultimately, I just want everything I touch to be a little bit better when
Yeah,
I leave than when I found it.
I love that. That's beautiful. All right, fun one. What's your favorite swear word?
I mean, my favorite swear word is definitely fuck.
Yep,
Uh,
good one. It's a
in
good one.
all intonations.
Yep.
But I really like putting swear words together. My husband and I call them Franken swears, where you just string a whole bunch of swear words together. With fuck being the primarily one. Yeah,
I call people fucktards all the time when I'm driving. I'm
yeah,
like, you're such a fucktard. And Michaela's
I
like, what
like
is that? I'm
that.
like, I don't know. It just works. There is something about that.
There
So
is. I think my go-to when I'm driving is probably dickhead. I
yeah,
probably use that one a
good one
lot
too,
when I'm
dickhead.
driving. Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of
Yes.
dickheads on the road.
I also
A
just love
lot.
the visual that gives you.
I know, right? Exactly. And you know what?
Yeah.
There's my biggest thing that drives me absolutely nuts is when people don't thank you when you let them in. If I held a door open for you, you would not just walk through and not say thank you. I actually legitimately roll down my window every time and wave. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. I'm always like,
Like, great,
hey.
thanks. But if I'm like, oh, did you not just wave and thank me? And I'm like, literally drive up beside them. I'm like, not even a wave.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
I
so you would thank me if I opened the door for you. You wouldn't just walk right
yes.
through. And if you did, I'd be like, I'm gonna do a post on that. It drives me crazy. Anyways,
You should.
I should, I will, I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right, so tell everybody where they can find you, where they can buy Elate, social handles, give us all the goods.
Yeah. So you can buy Elate online at elatebeauty.com. You can find us on Instagram at Elate Cosmetics and on Facebook. You can find me personally on Instagram. I'm Melodie Elated, and I share lots of fun things about being a business owner and my cute little kids. And yeah, and you can find us when you go on our website. You can actually put in your postal code and find the nearest location where you can go and shop our products in person as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for today's conversation. This was absolutely fantastic. I'm leaving feeling motivated, inspired, and also you warmed my heart too. Thank you for being so open and honest. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Thank you. I was
Thank
so excited, and it was really lovely to chat with you.
Well, and thank you. So, and everybody else, make sure you check out her website and stay tuned for next month for A Friends You Keep. Thanks so much for listening. See you later, everybody.
Bye.